for looking and tuning in. My name is Andre Rainey, former mayor of the great city of Peekskill, chair of the National Parents Organization New York chapter, and I'm here with my friend, colleague, partner, and mentor, Summer Johnson. Hey, Summer, how you doing?
Hi, Andre. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So welcome. So I want to say first and foremost, the work that you've been doing over the years has been amazing. So tell us a little bit about the organization that you founded and created, New York Families for Tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. So New York Families for Tomorrow is a statewide coalition that we formed not only to reform child custody laws, family law reform, but also bring the social awareness to cultural changes that affect families and their dynamic. And we have a regional team that spreads across New York State, so we're able to touch base with all of our local reps on a wider scale. Perfect. And this is one of those events here today that we're really hoping to gain a lot of reach and a lot of interaction with our reps in New York State.
Perfect. Now, and the work that you do you welcome volunteers, or is it kind of set with just your team? Or because I know a lot of people out there, especially in New York, are going through so many challenges with family court. They would love to get involved to be supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of people that are looking for support, looking to help any way they can. We do offer volunteers. We do have people reach out to us through our website, which is NewYorkFamiliesForTomorrow.org. We do vet people, though. We do want to make sure that we're in a sound mind, we're in a safe space in order to do our advocacy. But we're always willing to listen to people's stories, to guide them, to help them if they're going through court. Yep. If they need to know what kind of suit to wear, how to address a judge. We offer all those resources to people to help kind of ease that burden for them.
So my last question for you, this is like a personal question for me, but in this line of work, what is your favorite thing about what you do?
Oh, that's, believe it or not, my favorite thing in this line of work is reading the law and reading the bills.
Which is really necessary.
It is necessary. I really believe also a lot of our New York State reps fail to read comprehensively a lot of our laws that we're passing. So I take great pride in the fact that we read every letter, every paragraph, and really find the gaps in policy and try to make those changes.
Absolutely. So listen, Summer, I want to say thank you for your time, thank you for your work, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you say today.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I appreciate it.
Welcome New York Families for Tomorrow, Summer Johnson.
Hi, New York, fellow New Yorkers, welcome. Real quick, Andre said it, but I am one of the co-founders of New York Families for Tomorrow. It is a nonprofit that we formed with Jason and our dear friend Shannon Parks that came out of a series of unfortunate events, right? Like most here, and I think we've hit on it a couple times, seeking information, seeking answers of why things are happening to your family really can lead you down a road to either be more despaired, depressed, or in our cases, with all these great advocates here today, we lead to want to make change and take action. So those unfortunate events in my case are not directly linked to me, but in my husband's case, who is here with us tonight. A great father, a strong father, an Army veteran, a nurse practitioner, gets to go through the same family court drama and trauma that all of us here know about today, when at the end of the day, all he wants to do is be a dad and be active in his life. With that being said, I was seeking answers in 2018 when things started getting a little hairy. I went online, went to Google, typed in father rights. That simple. You can imagine the array of responses that I got. But one organization popped up, and that was the National Parents Organization, was the first place that I visited online. I reached out quickly to Jason, wanted to know more, wanted to know everything. Being a type A person, power, I wanted to, fire hose in mouth. I wanted to know everything of what we can do, how can we fix this. The lack of resources for our fathers in this realm is disgusting. And don't mind my bold words up here tonight. I'm usually not one for mincing my words. But with that being said, I knew the work that Jason was doing. We talked about fellow advocates who introduced laws, introduced bills, trying to get things passed. We took action. We decided to form another nonprofit to kind of corral the cats, we call it here in New York. There was a lot of people working, a lot of people doing good work, but really we were kind of missing direction here in New York. As many of you know, New York is a beast. It is a political powerhouse. It is an economic powerhouse. It runs the country. We have Wall Street. We have New York City. We have 19 million people here in New York. Out of that, almost half of our representatives are from New York City. So with that being said, we decided to form New York Families for Tomorrow, which has done amazingly. I always tell advocates, and this is from Jason as well, advocate when you can and rest when you can. Some of the issues that we see here in New York, we try to address. It's more than just trying to pass laws and bills. We're really on the front end and the front lines of the cultural shift that we want to see in family court to try to prevent some of those unnecessary filings before it even gets to the courtroom steps. The kitchen table conversations around the couch, talking to your coworkers, on the phone. Those are the conversations that we need to change in order to help in family court as well. I wouldn't be here today without having to go through family court. I had no intentions of entering this realm at all. I went to school to be a paralegal, and then I naturally found myself working in the family law, whereas I got in trouble several times for telling the clients that they should not be thinking that way, nor should they be working that way. After that, which, going through family court struggles, forming the nonprofit, I then quickly discovered that in order to make any movement in New York, we have to continue going with education. I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree in public policy, so our representatives would take me seriously. Being a female in this realm is not an easy task. I'm attacked. I'm called an abuse supporter. I'm called a narcissist. And so in order to combat against that, the greatest combat against that is credibility. And that's what we strive to do every day. I'd like to list some of our affiliates that we work under here in New York State. The National Parents Organization, Americans for Equal Shared Parenting, the Fathers' Rights Movement, Amazing Mothers Without Custody, Victim to Hero, Fathers Are Important, the Gabrielle Boyd Foundation, Hope for Families, Heroes for Children's Rights, and Interference with Child Custody Coalition. As you can see, thank you. We're not a special interest group. There's no money involved here. I think we can all attest that none of us are born with generational wealth to move the needle. There's no kickbacks. We're all volunteers who see a problem and wish to fix the problem. As a woman, like I said here, fighting for equality for fathers, fighting for healthier children, better societal outcomes, I'm considered the outlier. But it is us mothers, wives, daughters, that need to defend our families. We formed an educational coalition across New York State to advocate for meaningful family law reform. Not only statutory language, but in how the system reflects the realities of modern families. Our goal is to bring family law into the 21st century by incorporating social, cultural, and scientific understanding into the decisions that are made about children and families. To the National Parents Organization's point, our current court system, our current lawmakers are not applying the research that we have readily available. The research, we have more research today than we've had in the past 20 years, 50 years in family science, and it's amazing. And I want to give a round of applause to those agencies and organizations that allow us to use their research and share the information. So thank you. At present, cultural context is largely absent from legal determinations, even though it plays a critical role in child development and long-term outcomes. When we compare existing statutes such as Domestic Relations Law, Section 240 here in New York, and portions of the Family Court Act, and to real-life outcomes in real-life families, a clear gap emerges. These laws are not consistently aligned with establishing social sciences and what supports the healthiest emotional and psychologically developed children. Our organization has long maintained that family law should be subject to ongoing evidence-based review. Policies that shape children's lives must evolve alongside research in child development, psychology, and family systems. Without this, the legal framework risks reinforcing outdated assumptions rather than promoting stability and well-being. Family breakdown does not begin with filing divorce papers. It begins much earlier and often private conversations like I hinted on before. Internal struggles and gradual emotional shifts. When children are involved, these decisions become even more complex. Yet culturally, there's often a tendency to frame children as part of the negotiation process rather than individuals who need protection from it. It is our goal to prevent children from being involved in this process at all. My 9-year-old stepson was held to a standard that no 9-year-old should have to be held to. His mother, his attorney, which here in New York we have attorneys for the child, we don't have gals. They are legally supposed to be representing what the child wants. They are clients. My 9-year-old stepson was a client in a legal system who had to go to a Lincoln hearing privately with a judge in a room and tell him he didn't want to see his father anymore after being coached by his mother. He's going to be 17. Sorry. And I still see the impact today from what that did to him in his relationship with his father. Getting a little off topic here. Okay. That is part of where we need to remove children from the system and being involved. These are adult issues. These are legal issues. We pay attorneys to handle those issues for us. Why are we calling our children out of their bedrooms to attend court? It's no coincidence that Jason said that 17 years ago the first bill was introduced to try to reform and enter a presumption of shared parenting, when 16 years ago New York passed the no-fault divorce in 2010. That was signed into law by Governor David Paterson with the support of organizations such as the Women's Bar Association and domestic violence groups. While the statute itself lacked precise language, appellate court rulings clarified that marriages are considered inevitably broken when at least one party believes reconciliation is no longer possible. Culturally and politically, this reform was widely viewed as a success. It reduced barriers of divorce, lowered litigation costs, and streamlined the legal process. However, 16 years later, the data tells more of a nuisance story. The data tells us that when divorce rates have declined and case proceedings have become more efficient, conflict has not disappeared. It has shifted. Today, much of the conflict resurfaces in family court through post-judgment litigation. The most common filings include custody modifications, violation of court orders, and child support disputes. We all know early temporary orders, often issued quickly and with limited information, frequently shape the future outcomes of those cases. Women initiate divorce proceedings in approximately 65% of cases, a statistic that invites a deeper examination rather than simplistic conclusions. I filed my own divorce. I'm part of that statistic. Economic pressures, shifting gender roles, and evolving expectations around partnerships all contribute to this trend. In many households, both parents now have to work full-time, relying on daycare providers to share the day-to-day caregiving responsibilities. Yet legal language such as primary caretaker has not fully adopted and reflected this reality. So who is the primary caretaker when both parents work outside the house? Is that the future of our family law, where judges now can determine that a daycare teacher has parental rights and authority over your child because they're with them 9 hours a day? That's the reality. Despite the prevalence of no-fault divorce, New York does not have a standardized presumption of shared parenting. I'd like to say that louder for those in the back. We do not have a legal standing of presumption of shared parenting in either Supreme Court or family courts. Post-judgment litigation, especially around custody, can reintroduce instability into children's lives, forcing them to repeatedly adjust to changing arrangements and prolonged parental conflict. Courts continue to rely on traditional assumptions about parenting roles, Allegations of neglect and abuse frequently arise from modification proceedings, as we've seen in the MPO presentation, the boogeyman, the straw arguments that we frequently hear in courts and when we read transcripts. Raising important questions about why such concerns were not fully addressed during the initial divorce proceeding. At the time, it is critical to recognize that while some risks emerge over time, many patterns of conflict are present earlier and could be more effectively managed and better initiated during the framework of the original divorce proceeding. Family court is not that time. It is not the place, and it's not proper. The best interest of the child standard remains a guiding principle in custody determinations in New York, but its application often lacks consistency and sufficient grounding in modern social science. True child-centered decision-making requires a deeper understanding of developmental needs, attachment, stability, and the impact of prolonged conflict. Promoting shared parenting is not about ignoring logistical challenges or minimizing legitimate concerns. One of the biggest reasons we hear for against shared parenting here in New York is it's just too hard to figure out a schedule. Coming from the same people that, again, drop their kids off for 9 to 10 hours at daycares every day so they can go to work. There are 6 ways to split shared parenting here in New York across the state. I'm sure we could figure out a way to make it work. And often science promotes that the less handoffs that children have, the better off they are. So I'm a big proponent of the week on, week off, just let it go. It is not about recognizing that in the scheduling. In most cases, we should not be spending money and legal costs on having a judge tell us how to schedule our lives. It's that in most cases, children benefit from a meaningful, consistent relationship with both parents. It also means ensuring that children are not placed in the middle of adult disputes or used explicitly or inexplicitly as a leverage in negotiations. Family law in New York stands at the crossroads. While post-reforms have improved efficiency, they have not fully addressed the underlying dynamics that affect children's well-being. To move forward, the system must shift from a reactive and adversarial model to one that is proactive, evidence-based, and culturally informed. This includes reevaluating temporary order practices, integrating current social science into legal standards, and promoting framework that prioritizes stability, cooperation, and shared responsibility. Most importantly, it requires a cultural shift, one that recognizes that children are not part of the conflict to be resolved, but individuals to be protected from it. Reform is not simply about changing laws, it's about changing how we think about families, responsibility, and long-term impact of our decisions. By aligning legal practices with what we know in child development and family dynamics, New York has the opportunity to lead the rest of the nation in creating a system that truly serves its most vulnerable participants. Thank you.
If I could say anything to the children around the world today, it'd be to remind you that you are great. And if nobody said it to you lately, I want to say it to you. You're great, and I love you.